I 24F have been with my fiancé 29M for 4 years and we have our wedding planned for this November. I don't know exactly when it happened, has to have been recently, but someone DM'd him a video of me from before we even met or either of us even knew each other. It's embarrassing, but without going into too much detail, it was a video of me sleeping with 3 men. It is very obviously me in the video and it would be impossible for him to think it was anyone else. As far as I know, it was from an anonymous Instagram account, but it's been hard to get info. When we started dating, we never really talked about previous cuddle lives or anything, but I knew that I was his first girlfriend and he knew that he was not my first boyfriend. He did not know about this, as I guess I didn't feel it was relevant or worthwhile to tell him. He confronted me on Monday about it and has been very upset since. We had been living together, but he has moved in with a friend because he said he needed some time to think. When he confronted me, he flat out asked me how many men I had slept with, and I was honest with him and told him 8. He asked if I had ever cheated on him and I said no, which is true. The thought of doing that had never even crossed my mind. Honestly, I was and am pretty hurt by how he reacted because I have always been faithful to him and am deeply in love with him. He said he thinks I might be using him because he has a high salary, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I tried explaining that to him, but I don't know if he believes me. I was going through a very weird and very tough time in my life when that video was recorded, and I know now it was a bad idea, but it's not like I can undo it or anything. I guess I'm worried he's going to break up with me over this, and I would really like advice from the community on how to handle moving forward with this situation. TLDR, someone sent my fiancé a NSFW video of me from before we met and it's wrecking our relationship. Relevant comments. Commenter. There's not much you can do. While we are usually aware our partners have an intimate history, it can be hard to handle when it's shoved in our face. Hope he recognizes that you both love him and are faithful to him and he's able to process it. But definitely keep an eye on anyone who has been muted about your marriage to him suddenly popping up. It's helpful to know who's trying to sabotage you. OP. Thanks for the reply. I feel terrible for what I did back then, but I also feel like he's acting like I cheated on him, which I don't think is fair. I didn't think we really had any problems in our relationship up until this point either, and everything was going so well. Commenter. First, you need to figure out which of the 3 guys did it, contact a lawyer and file police report because this is a serious crime. There need to be consequences for them so they don't do it again in the future. Now about your fiancé, there is really not much more you can do. Remind him it was in the past, it was a bad period of your life and you regret doing it. But honestly, seeing your significant other on camera having cuddles with just one person is tough, with 3, well, I can't even imagine, SB, because you are this guy's first girlfriend and probably hasn't done those things in the past. Are you doing anything in that video you haven't done with him? Moaning louder than you usually do? Do the guys have bigger sticks? Because if even just one of those things is the case, then you've got a big uphill battle to climb, unfortunately. Do I think you can salvage this relationship? Possibly IDK. The ball is in his court. OP. I have a lawyer and am working with the police at this point. And yes, I am doing a number of things in the video I haven't done with him. Commenter. This is about the lying, not the cuddles. Yes, you should have disclosed your entire intimacy past early in the relationship. I have participated in consensual taboo cuddle experiences that I told my wife about a month into our relationship. She took a minute to absorb the information, asked questions, and we moved on. So you lied by omission, but did you lie by commission? For instance, did he ask you anything like, what's the most out of this world intimate thing you've done, and you failed to mention the group cuddle? Another issue may be feeling jilted. Did he ask you if you were open to a 3-way or swinging? If so, did you say no to avoid having to admit your experience with that kind of cuddles? OP. He has never asked me to do a 3-way or asked if I was interested in them. I honestly don't know how I would have reacted if he did. I probably would have just told him, but I guess it would be dependent on the conversation. We never had an intimacy history conversation, so I assumed he wasn't interested. I think that's a fair assumption, and given that, I didn't want to force information on him I didn't think he wanted to know. I wasn't purposefully hiding it from him, I just didn't think he wanted to know, so I didn't tell him. If he wanted to know, I would have told him. When asked a few times why OP never brought the incident up. It was just never something that came up, and I guess I thought it would have been awkward to bring up myself. I totally understand you feeling that way, but I didn't think he cared, but he obviously does. And I know, it was a bad decision. When told to contact the people who made the video and seek legal action. It was all before I even knew him, and I haven't talked to any of the people involved in years. I don't know where it could have come from. I would like to pursue something, but I don't have the video and never had it. The video was taken with my consent. It was a bad decision, I understand that. Like I said in the post, we never talked about previous history, but he knew I had exes, so I guess I assumed that meant he knew I'd had an amount of intimacy before. Obviously, I wouldn't expect him to think of that as the same as this, but I just wish he gave me a better opportunity to explain myself. On the foursome and the video. I regret doing it, but was in a bad place when I did. I guess it would make more sense to me if I knew him when I had done this, but I didn't even know him then. And I haven't talked to any of the other participants in years. If the roles were reversed, I would have enough trust in him to not immediately jump to accusing him of cheating. It would obviously be on my mind, but I'd let him explain himself. Update 1. It's been a while since I posted, but I got a lot of comments from my original post, so I figured I'd provide an update. I have the post linked below, but as a refresher, my fiancé, who I had been with for 4 years, was DM'd a very graphic video of me from before I knew him, and he broke up with me. Since my post, we did have a few conversations, but none ever really went anywhere, as it basically boiled down to him saying he didn't think he would be able to spend the rest of his life with someone who would do something like I did. I tried explaining that it was a mistake and something I would never even consider doing again, but it didn't really seem to matter to him, I guess. Obviously, he is free to make his own decisions about his life, but it's just devastating to me that this happened. I wasn't crazy in love with him, and it's all gone because of something that happened before I even knew he existed. So I guess pretty short update. I haven't talked to him for about a month because there's really nothing else to say to him, I guess. A lot of people had asked me to post an update at the time of the original post, and I guess I was just getting around to it now. Thanks for reading. TLDR, my fiancé did not see things the way I did, and we have broken up permanently, I would assume. Relevant comments. Commenter. Any luck finding out who sent it? One of the 3 dudes who has a crush on you and wanted to torpedo your wedding? Whoever did it committed a crime against you, I hope they are discovered. Totally not fair, but I guess you will have to disclose this encounter with future serious relationships, and tell that a vid might be sent to him as revenge porn. Sorry this is happening. You are still young, you can overcome this. OP. I did not have any luck finding out who sent it, no, which is an extra punch in the guy on top of all this. It's scary to think that's still out there, and whoever sent it probably will again the next time I get involved with someone. Commenter. Going back through your account history. This sucks to hear. I think trying to look at your story and putting myself in your fiancé's shoes, I'd find it hard to see a video like that, especially if I didn't know it had happened beforehand. But I guess the worst part on your end is that you're actually the victim of a crime and he didn't support you in that. Someone sent revenge porn to your ex with the obvious hopes of ruining your relationship and he fell for it. You shouldn't be punished for decisions you made in your past as far as I'm concerned. OP. Thanks for saying that. I really am trying to see it from both sides, but it's just hard for me, you know? I know we have to live with our choices, but I just hate that literally one bad decision has fudged everything up. Commenter. There should be a way to track who sent it through the video's metadata, or at the least from whatever email/account/phone number sent it. The guys in the video could be suspects. What have the investigators said? Really sorry that this has done so much damage to you and your relationship with your fiancé. OP. Honestly, the police did not seem interested in helping me when I brought this up to them, and that was very disheartening for me, so I guess I didn't pursue it much after that. Update 2. I posted more about this back when it was happening, but I guess I never found this subreddit, so I wanted to post on here too. About 5 months ago, an anonymous Instagram account DM'd my ex-fiancé a very explicit video of me that was taken before I even knew him, and it caused him to break up with me. Since then, we've had some back and forth, but recently I think it's officially over, and I'm having trouble knowing what to do next. I'm trying to be understanding of his point of view, as no one would want to see someone they love like that, but at the same time, I feel like I am also a victim here from that kind of thing being shared, and I also feel hurt that he wasn't in my corner defending me from that. From the various discussions we've had, he has said he simply can't see himself spending the rest of his life with me after seeing the video, and that he feels like I misled him by not bringing up that I'd done something like this when we first started dating. I totally understand he's allowed to feel how he feels, but at the same time it was from before I even knew him, and I realized it was a mistake almost immediately and have never had any desire to do something like that again, and it's also not like I was purposefully hiding it from him or lied about it or anything. The topic just never came up, and it's not like I'm just going to drop something like that on someone. Or maybe I should have, and that would have made it better. I don't know. I know it's cliche or whatever, but I really feel like he was the one for me, and now it's over and I have no chance with him anymore. He pretty much shut me out after this happened, but I still managed some conversations, but that's pretty much over now. I tried to pursue legal action about the video being sent and he was helpful with that I guess, and I was hopeful that might change his mind or something, but it didn't, and my pursuit didn't go anywhere either as I didn't really have anything and he deleted the video shortly after it was sent. I guess I feel like I'm rambling, but I feel totally lost right now and could use any advice anyone on here would be willing to give. This is the first real breakup I've had, and I get things get better with time I guess, but I'm just having a hard time accepting it's over right now. TLDR, fiancé broke up with me after being DM'd a video, and now I feel like I'm lost. Relevant comments. Commenter. I think now you need to focus on who has the video and how you can get it deleted. If you were under 18 at the time, you can approach the men and tell them to delete it in front of you or you call the police. Did you ex ever bring up/ask about threesomes during your relationship? If so, that may be why he felt misled. OP. I was not underage in the video. I tried pursuing it with the police, but that was frankly a very embarrassing situation and I will likely not do that again. Three-ways were never a topic of discussion between us, no. Commenter. Have you reached out to the three guys? Did you know you were being recorded and consented? How was your cuddle life with your ex? Fairly vanilla. OP. I have not reached out to them and hadn't for a number of years. I wasn't friends with them anymore by the time I met my now ex-fiancé. Yes, I knew and consented to being recorded. Like I said, it was a terrible idea and I regretted it almost immediately. I had asked them to delete it and they said they did, but apparently not. My ex and I had a very good cuddle life that we were both very happy with. Commenter. What was your relationship with these guys like at the time? Did you date any of them? OP. I was friend with them for a while. We did not date. Commenter. Did any of them want to date you? Or hook up again? OP. They did want to hook up again, but I declined. Commenter. Had you hooked up with any of them more than that one time? Was there one guy who was more persistent? OP. No, it was just that time. Update 3. This was kind of a long time coming I guess, but it became official recently which led me to finding this subreddit I guess. I had been with him for 4 years and was so crazy in love with him and now I don't even know what to do because it was such a bad breakup I can't even talk to him anymore or anything. Does anyone have any advice or anything? I know it's cliche or whatever, but like I feel like he really was the one for me and now I won't find anyone else to be with, you know? I'm trying to stay positive, but I don't even know how to do that I guess. Sorry for the rambling post, but it's been an emotion morning for me I guess. Thanks for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter. This is awful, I'm so sorry, OP. This is doubly frustrating since you said the police aren't interested and no legal options are available for you. I will say that a person that ended an engagement with you due to this wasn't your person. A lot of people disagree with me, but I'll take to my dying grave that you should never have to hide aspects or pieces of past from your lifelong partner. A partner should accept your mistakes, your regrets, and your faults. A partner should know you'll do right by them and yourself. If they can't, then it wasn't the right pairing. Your ex has his standards. That's fine, but that simply means he wasn't right for you. The pain in your heart won't accept that yet, but you'll move on. You'll find someone else. Wishing you the best. OP. Thanks for saying that. It's just so hard because if that never happened I would be getting married to the love of my life in like 2 months. I know everyone is allowed to feel how they want to feel, and it was probably traumatic for him too, but I'm just devastated with the way everything went. I never would have thought this would happen. Update 4. So, I've been sitting with all of this for a while now, trying to figure out how to move forward. I've done everything I could think of, therapy, yoga, even tried adopting a cat, but nothing really took the edge off. I still feel like my life got turned upside down by this one moment in time by a version of me that I don't even recognize anymore. A couple of days ago, out of nowhere, I got a message from one of the guys in the video. Yeah, I know, it was a total gut punch. I hadn't spoken to any of them in years, but there he was, sitting in my DMs like a bad memory I tried to bury. He was apologetic, said he heard what happened and wanted to make things right. I had half a mind to just block him right there, but curiosity got the better of me. So, we ended up talking. It turns out he wasn't the one who sent the video, but he knew who did. Apparently, one of the other guys, I won't name names because frankly, I never want to think about him again, had been holding on to it like some kind of sick trophy. He was bitter about me not hooking up with him again and decided to get even by sending the video to my ex. The fact that someone would go to those lengths to completely wreck my life just because I turned him down made me feel physically ill. I debated going back to the police with this new information, but honestly, after the way they handled it before, I don't have much faith in the system. My lawyer said it's still an uphill battle, especially without the original video in hand. Part of me just wants to let it go, to stop giving this any more space in my head. But another part of me wants justice, or at least some kind of closure. As for my ex, I debated telling him what I found out, hoping it might change things, but ultimately, I didn't. I think the biggest revelation I had was that even if he knew the full story, even if he understood that I was as much a victim in this as he was, it wouldn't change the fact that he chose to walk away. I'm finally beginning to understand that this wasn't just about the video, it was about who he is and who I am, and maybe we were never meant to be together in the long run. It still hurts like hell. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. But I'm starting to accept that the life I had planned, the one with the wedding and the perfect future, is gone. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I needed to go through this to figure out who I really am and what I really want. But here's the kicker, just when I thought I was starting to get a handle on things, I got another message, this time from someone completely different. It was a woman claiming she knew about the video and had more dirt on the guy who sent it. She didn't give many details, just said that she wanted to help me take him down. I don't know if I should trust her, but I can't help but feel like this whole thing isn't over yet. I'm standing at a crossroads, not sure whether to dive back into this mess or finally let it go and move on with my life. Part of me wants to see this through, to make sure that no one else ever goes through what I did. But another part of me is exhausted, ready to put this all behind me and start fresh. What do you think? Should I follow this new lead and keep digging, or should I finally let it all go? TLDR, one of the guys from the video reached out, revealed who sent it to my ex. Now, someone else has contacted me claiming they have more dirt on him. I'm torn between pursuing this or moving on with my life. Relevant comments commenter, wow, what a roller coaster. I think you should follow up on that lead, even if it's just to get some closure. But if it starts dragging you back down into that dark place, don't be afraid to walk away. You've already been through so much. OP. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, getting sucked back into all of this. But at the same time, I don't want to feel like I'm letting him get away with what he did. I'll have to think on it some more. Commenter, it's a tough call, but just remember you don't owe anyone anything. Not closure, not revenge, nothing. Do what's right for you. OP, thank you, I really appreciate that. It's hard not to feel like I have to see this through, but you're right. I need to do what's best for me. Update 5, I decided I wasn't ready to let this go just yet. The idea that this guy could be out there, ruining other people's lives like he did mine, gnawed at me. So, I messaged the woman back, the one who claimed she had more dirt on him. I didn't give her too much info, just enough to let her know I was interested in hearing what she had to say. She responded almost immediately, like she'd been waiting for my reply. Turns out, she wasn't just some random person. She was actually the ex-girlfriend of one of the other guys in the video. I know, talk about a small world, right? She told me she had been following my story from the beginning because she had her own run-ins with this guy. According to her, he had done similar things to other women, though not always as extreme as what he did to me. It was like he got off on holding power over people, and when things didn't go his way, he would lash out. She had screenshots, messages, and even some old videos that showed his pattern of behavior. She said she was ready to take him down but didn't want to do it alone. She wanted to make sure he couldn't weasel his way out of it this time by saying it was just a one-time thing, or that he didn't know better. And honestly, that lit a fire in me. So, I agreed to meet with her. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in a different part of town, somewhere we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. I was nervous, but she seemed legit, and honestly, I was getting more and more pissed off just thinking about this guy getting away with everything he'd done. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with a folder and a laptop in front of her. She got straight to the point. She showed me everything she had, and it was even worse than I imagined. He had been doing this for years, ruining relationships, blackmailing women, and just being a total creep. The worst part? No one had ever reported him. Everyone was too ashamed or too scared of what he might do next. But here she was, willing to go to war with him, and she wanted me on her side. I was floored. I didn't realize how deep this went. And while it made me even angrier, it also made me realize just how careful we had to be. This guy was dangerous, not just to my life, but to anyone who crossed him. We spent hours at that coffee shop, going through every piece of evidence she had. We talked about what we could do, who we could go to, and how we could make sure he didn't get away with it this time. I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on me, but at the same time, there was a strange sense of relief. I wasn't alone in this anymore. But here's the kicker, just as we were about to wrap up our meeting, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a simple message, "You need to stop digging." My blood ran cold. I showed the message to the woman, and she looked as shocked as I felt. Was this him? Did he know we were meeting? I started to panic, but she grabbed my hand and told me not to let him scare me. "This is what he does," she said. "He tries to intimidate you into silence." But the more I thought about it, the more I realized she was right. I wasn't going to back down now, not after everything that had happened. So, we made a pact. We were going to take this guy down, no matter what. We decided to gather more evidence, talk to more of his victims, and make sure that when we finally made our move, it would be airtight. But we had to be smart about it. We couldn't just charge in without a plan. We agreed to meet again in a few days after we both had time to process everything and figure out our next steps. As I walked out of that coffee shop, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was bigger than me now, bigger than my broken engagement or the video. This was about stopping a predator who had been getting away with too much for too long. But just as I was about to get into my car, I noticed something strange. A black SUV was parked a little way down the street, and it seemed like the driver was watching me. I couldn't be sure, but my gut told me something was off. I got in my car and drove off, trying to shake the feeling of being followed. I'm not sure where this is going to lead, but I know one thing, I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. But I can't shake the feeling that things are about to get a whole lot more complicated and dangerous. I guess I'll have to see what happens next. TLDR, met with a woman who had dirt on the guy who sent the video. We're planning to take him down, but I've started getting threats, and I think I might be being followed. Things are getting dangerous, but I'm not backing down. Relevant comments commenter, this is getting intense. Please be careful, OP. It sounds like this guy is seriously dangerous. Maybe you should go to the police again now that you have more evidence? OP, I'm definitely considering it, but the last time I tried, they didn't seem interested in helping. I'm worried they'll just brush me off again. But, yeah, I'm being extra cautious. Thanks for the concern. Commenter, you're doing the right thing by standing up to this guy, but make sure you're protecting yourself too. Maybe talk to a lawyer about how to handle the threats? OP, I've been in touch with my lawyer, and we're working on it. It's just frustrating how slow everything seems to move when you're dealing with something like this. Commenter, that black SUV sounds sketchy as hell. If you notice it again, maybe you should try to get the plate number and report it? Stay safe. OP. Yeah, I thought about that afterward. If I see it again, I'll definitely try to get more details. Thanks for the advice. Update 6. After that unsettling text and the weird SUV incident, I was on edge. Every little sound had me jumping, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It was like I was living in some kind of thriller movie, but this was real life and I had no idea how far this guy was willing to go to protect his secrets. The first thing I did was start paying more attention to my surroundings. I started taking different routes to work, parking in different spots, and keeping an eye out for anything unusual. And guess what? The black SUV showed up again twice. Once when I was heading to work, and again when I was out grocery shopping. This time, I managed to get a good look at it and caught part of the license plate. I snapped a quick photo just in case. I decided it was time to loop my lawyer in on everything that had been happening. I sent her the photo, the details about the threats, and everything I had gathered from the woman who had reached out to me. She agreed that this was getting serious and recommended we escalate things. She suggested filing a restraining order against the guy, which might not stop him, but at least it would create a legal trail. I wasn't sure how effective it would be, but I was willing to try anything at this point. Meanwhile, I kept in touch with the woman from the coffee shop. We were both on high alert, and she told me that she'd also been getting some weird messages, though nothing as direct as what I'd received. We decided to lay low for a bit, gathering more evidence and talking to more people who had been affected by this guy. The more we dug, the more we realized just how deep this rabbit hole went. There were more victims, more stories, and a clear pattern of manipulation and control. Then, things took another turn. I was coming home from work one evening, and as I walked up to my apartment building, I noticed something taped to my door. It was a plain white envelope with my name scrawled across it in messy handwriting. My heart was pounding as I pulled it off the door and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a chilling message: "Stop, or you'll regret it." No signature, no clue as to who had left it. But I didn't need one. I knew exactly who it was from. I felt a wave of panic, but also a surge of anger. How dare this guy try to intimidate me like this? It only made me more determined to take him down. I called the woman from the coffee shop and told her what happened. She was just as freaked out as I was, but agreed that we couldn't back down now. We needed to act before things escalated even further. That night, I hardly slept. Every creak in my apartment, every shadow outside my window, sent my imagination spiraling. I kept thinking about all the possible ways this guy could come after me. Would he try to harm me physically? Ruin my career? The unknowns were eating me alive, but I knew I couldn't let fear control me. The next morning, I took all the evidence I had, the messages, the envelope, the photo of the SUV, and went back to the police. This time, I was more insistent. I demanded they take my situation seriously, laying out everything in a clear, concise manner. Maybe it was my tone, or maybe the gravity of the situation finally hit them, but they agreed to open an investigation. They even took the envelope for fingerprint analysis, though they warned me it might not turn up anything. As for the restraining order, my lawyer and I pushed it through as fast as we could. It wouldn't solve everything, but it was a step in the right direction. It was something, at least. But just when I thought things might be calming down, I got a call from my ex-fiancé. Yes, that ex-fiancé. We hadn't spoken since everything went down, and honestly, I was shocked to see his name pop up on my screen. My heart was racing as I answered, unsure of what to expect. He sounded different, less angry, more concerned. He told me he'd heard from a mutual friend about the situation, about how I was being harassed and threatened. He said he was sorry for how everything went down and that he didn't realize how serious this all was. He asked if there was anything he could do to help. I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I was glad he seemed to care, but on the other, I couldn't forget how quickly he'd abandoned me when things got tough. I told him I appreciated the offer but that I was handling it. He insisted on meeting up, saying he wanted to make sure I was okay. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee. The meeting was awkward, to say the least. We talked about the investigation, the threats, everything that had happened since the video came out. He apologized again, saying he wished he had handled things differently, but he was still clearly struggling with what he had seen. He admitted that it was hard for him to separate the person in the video from the woman he loved, and that was why he couldn't stay. It was painful to hear, but at least it was honest. Before we parted ways, he handed me something, a small, black USB drive. He said it contained a copy of the video and some other files that had been sent to him, things he had kept in case he needed them for legal reasons. He told me he thought I should have it now, that maybe it could help with the investigation. I took the drive, not sure what to do with it. Part of me wanted to throw it into the nearest trash can, but I knew it might be important. So I kept it, tucked away in my bag, and said goodbye to him. I don't know if we'll ever truly be friends again, but at least there was some closure there. Now, I'm back home, trying to figure out my next move. The threats haven't stopped, but neither has my resolve. I've got this USB drive that could be a game changer, and I'm going to see where it leads. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but one thing is clear, this isn't over yet. And honestly, I'm ready for whatever comes next. TLDR, the threats are getting more intense, and my ex-fiancé reached out, offering a USB drive with the video and some other files that might help. The police are finally investigating, but the situation is still dangerous. I'm determined to see this through, no matter what happens next. Relevant comments. Commenter, this is getting so intense. I'm glad that police are finally taking you seriously, but please be careful. This guy sounds unhinged. What are you going to do with the USB? OP, I'm still figuring that out. I'm going to go through it with my lawyer and see if there's anything that can help the investigation. It's hard, though part of me doesn't want to see what's on it. Commenter, your ex reaching out is surprising. Do you think he genuinely wants to help, or could there be another motive? OP, I honestly don't know. I'd like to think he's being genuine, but given everything that's happened, it's hard to fully trust anyone right now. I'm keeping my guard up. Commenter, please stay safe. If that SUV shows up again, maybe consider getting someone to stay with you or even moving temporarily. This guy sounds like he's willing to do anything to protect himself. OP, I've thought about that too. I'm definitely being extra cautious and looking into some security options. It's just a lot to process all at once. Update 7. It's been a whirlwind since my last update, and I finally have some closure, though it didn't come easily. This whole ordeal has been one of the most challenging experiences of my life, but I can say with confidence now that I'm finally free from it. Buckle up for this final chapter, because it's a wild ride. After meeting with my ex and getting that USB drive, I felt like I was holding a ticking time bomb in my hands. I knew I had to look at what was on it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it alone. So, I called my lawyer and asked if we could go through it together. She agreed, and we set up a time to meet the next day. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the video, the threats, the black SUV. I kept thinking about how deep this had all gotten, how dangerous this guy really was. But mixed in with that fear was a burning determination. I was done being scared. It was time to finish this. The next morning, I met my lawyer in her office. She set up her laptop, and we plugged in the USB drive. The first file was exactly what I expected the video. My stomach churned just seeing the thumbnail, but I knew this wasn't the time to be squeamish. My lawyer clicked on it and let it play for a few seconds, just enough to verify it was the same video that had been sent to my ex. Then she closed it and moved on to the other files. That's when things got interesting. There were several folders on the drive, each labeled with a different woman's name. My lawyer and I opened them one by one, and what we found was horrifying. This guy had been doing this to other women for years, just as the woman from the coffee shop had said. There were videos, photos, and text conversations evidence of his manipulations, blackmail, and outright cruelty. This wasn't just some random act of revenge, it was a pattern of abuse that he'd been carrying out for far too long. My lawyer's face was grim as she took it all in. "This is enough to bury him," she said quietly. "But we need to be smart about how we handle this." We spent the rest of the day planning our next steps. My lawyer advised me to hand everything over to the police, and this time, with the overwhelming evidence we had, they'd have no choice but to take action. But there was another piece of the puzzle we hadn't fully considered, the woman from the coffee shop. I called her as soon as I left my lawyer's office, and we agreed to meet up that evening. When I showed her what was on the USB drive, she was as shocked as I was. But she was also relieved. "This is it," she said. "This is what we need to take him down." We decided to go to the police together. It felt right, like we were in this together, and we were going to see it through to the end. The next day, we went to the police station, armed with the USB drive and all the information we'd gathered. This time, there was no brushing us off. The officers listened, their expressions growing more serious with every piece of evidence we laid out. They took our statements, copied the files, and assured us that they would launch a full investigation. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But there was still one last piece of the puzzle, the threats. As we were wrapping up at the police station, one of the officers pulled me aside. "We've been monitoring the situation closely," he said. "And we've noticed something you should be aware of." He led me to a back room where they had a board filled with photos and notes. My heart raced as I recognized the faces of the three guys from the video, along with others I didn't know. But what really caught my attention was a series of surveillance photos of the black SUV, of the guy who sent the video, and of my ex-fiancé. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. The officer sighed. "We believe your ex-fiancé might be more involved in this than you thought. We think he's been in contact with the guy who sent the video, possibly even orchestrating some of this." My mind went blank. It was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. My ex. The guy who had broken up with me over this, who had claimed to be a victim just like me, he was involved. I couldn't believe it, but the evidence was right there in front of me. The officer explained that they'd found messages between my ex and the guy who sent the video, discussing how to shake things up and get back at her. Apparently, my ex hadn't just been a passive recipient of the video, he'd been part of the plan all along. I was furious. Hurt. Betrayed. But most of all, I was determined. This had gone on long enough. With the police on our side, things moved quickly. They arrested both the guy who sent the video and my ex-fiancé. The investigation uncovered even more victims, and within weeks, they were both facing multiple charges, including harassment, blackmail, and distribution of explicit materials without consent. The media caught wind of the story, and it blew up, making it impossible for them to hide from what they'd done. The woman from the coffee shop and I stayed in touch throughout it all. We supported each other, shared our stories, and in a strange way, became friends through this nightmare. We even connected with some of the other women who had been victims, creating a sort of support network to help each other heal. As for me, I've finally started to move on. I left my old apartment, got a new job, and even adopted that cat I mentioned earlier. It's still hard to believe how much my life changed because of one video, but I've come out of it stronger. I'm not the same person I was before all of this happened, but I think that's a good thing. I've learned that I'm resilient, that I can fight back, and that I deserve better than what I had. And as for my ex-fiancé? He's facing years behind bars, along with the guy who sent the video. It's not the ending I thought I'd have, but it's one I can live with. They won't be able to hurt anyone else ever again.